And now our fourth story out front. The woman behind the resignation of General David Petraeus. Tonight, there are growing questions about Paula Broadwell, the 40-year-old biographer of General Petraeus. CNN has learned the affair started 2 months after Petraeus took over the CIA back into September of 2011, and it ended about 4 months ago. Out front tonight, Pentagon correspondent Chris Lawrence on who she is, the woman at the heart of this investigation.
Holly Petraeus and Paula Broadwell were separated by just 5 seats at David Petraeus' confirmation hearing to become CIA director. The affair wouldn't begin for another couple months, but the attraction was there. A longtime friend of Petraeus says years in the war zone had left him isolated. Petraeus didn't have anyone on his level he could talk to candidly. So when Paula Broadwell came along, quote, he enjoyed her company. She was an attractive gal, and they had things in common. But the friend tells CNN after the affair destroyed Petraeus' career, he reflected on the relationship. And Petraeus came to realize Broadwell may have been obsessed and perhaps felt she was warding off the competition and sending emails to Petraeus' family friend, Jill Kelly.
I'm not in love with David Petraeus.
Broadwell is a West Point grad like Petraeus. She's appeared often on CNN, including several times on this program discussing security issues.
Well, sure. It's probably a signal, Aaron, that we do have visibility on what's going on in the ground there.
Petraeus cultivated smart, competitive people around him. In high school, Paula Broadwell was student council president and valedictorian, a homecoming queen who would later compete in the Ironman triathlon and earn a PhD from Harvard. Petraeus and Broadwell started running together when he was stationed in Florida, running U.S. Central Command. She went to Afghanistan when he took over the war, and some close Petraeus staffers couldn't understand why she got such unprecedented access. But ISAF headquarters is a cramped cluster of compartments where Petraeus had little to no privacy, and officials say nothing inappropriate happened while Petraeus was still in uniform. Sources tell us that Paula Broadwell was here in Washington celebrating her birthday with friends and family when all of this news broke wide open at the end of last week. In fact, one of the last postings on her Twitter account is retweeting one of the rules of leadership by David Petraeus. Chris Lawrence, CNN, The Pentagon.
And I want to bring in 3 reporters who have been looking into the relationship between Paula Broadwell and General David Petraeus. Fred Kaplan, he's Slate's War Stories columnist and author of the upcoming book, The Insurgents, David Petraeus, and the Plot to Change the American Way of War. Spencer Ackerman is also out front, a senior writer for Wired, who covers the FBI and national security matters for the Danger Zone blog. And Eli Lake, senior national security reporter for Newsweek and the Daily Beast. Great to have all of you with us. I want to just alert all of you, and Spencer, I'll start with you. The Washington Post has just posted an op-ed by Vernon Loeb, who co-authored the book with Paula Broadwell, All In. The first sentence, my wife says I'm the most clueless person in America. He says he had no idea about the affair, even though he worked with her on this book for 16 months. What are you hearing now about when and how this started?
I'm hearing a lot of what Chris mentioned in the lead-in. A lot of the people close to Petraeus for a long time have found it somewhat strange that Paula Broadwell got this amount of access compared to her relatively thin journalistic resume. But none really thought, or at least were talking at the time, that there was an inappropriate relationship there. At the same time, when the announcement came that he was resigning and admitting to an inappropriate relationship, it seemed to ricochet really quickly across people who were in Petraeus' circle that it was probably Ms. Broadwell.
Fred, Vernon Loeb writes, there was no protege more ardent than Broadwell. He talks about himself. He only had one contact with Petraeus. She had all the contact for the book. They had a lot in common.
Well, you know, Paula Broadwell has said that they met when she was in grad school at Harvard and Petraeus came to give a talk. And she approached him afterwards, expressing great interest, wanting to talk with him more about the subject. You know, if Paula Broadwell had been the dowdiest young man that you could possibly imagine, Petraeus would have been interested in cultivating a person with that CV as a possible protege. He was very much into mentoring. He came out of a tradition at the social science department at West Point, which cultivated mentor relationships with young men, which found new things, new positions for them to have. So it was not at all surprising that he found her attractive in that sense initially.
And what is your understanding as to when this started? Obviously, it's very crucial for viewers who aren't aware whether it started before or after he was at the CIA. Before, it's really not, it's against the law in the military for him to have had an affair. At the CIA, it would be different. So there are different legal ramifications as to when it started.
That's true, and that may be one reason why some of his friends are so adamant that it was after. I do know that there were a lot of people in Kabul, as Spencer just said, who were kind of disturbed at the kind of access that she was getting, and how she was traveling around with him a lot, going on early morning jogs with him a lot, being brought into meetings that, even though, listen, Petraeus got along with reporters. He liked cultivating reporters.
He did with all of us. He made us all feel special by how quickly he would respond to emails.
Yes, but first he liked them, like us. But second, he saw it as information operations, a military term. This was to get the message out. But she was being treated at a level a little bit different.
And Eli, what is your understanding as to the security risk? Because that's the big question here about this FBI investigation, right? And we were talking about how the University of Denver, she was recently speaking about how there could have been Libyans held prisoner in Benghazi related to the Benghazi attack, something that no one else had talked about, if true, could have been classified inappropriate and a violation. What's your understanding as to what she might have known?
The CIA denies that claim, but the rest of that speech, she does speak as if she is almost speaking for David Petraeus, and at times kind of acting as a government official would, confirming things that were in press reports, discussing sensitive details. And at the very end of her answer on Benghazi, she says, as a former military intelligence officer, I'm saddened to see so many sources and methods disclosed in that sense. So one thing that always happens when you're looking at an investigation kind of post-mortem after something like this is that there is a process, an audit, if you will, at the CIA to determine whether any classified information was, I guess, inappropriately disclosed. And if there were lots of conversations with Paula Broadwell, she may have had the clearances to hear that, but then she then shares that information with the public, then it would present a bunch of problems.
That's a fair point. And Spencer, in terms of when this started, that crucial question, you write about an incident at a wedding.
It seems that at a wedding of some prominent aides to Petraeus, there was some concern, I should say also, former aides to Petraeus and people sort of in that circle. There was some concern about the propriety of their relationship. There was some concern about some seeming closeness between the two of them. Yet it's difficult to find people who really thought that this was in fact something more than what it appeared like, the close mentoring relationship that Fred described. And as Eli's talking about, an absolutely crucial question going forward is what information, even if she's acting like an unofficial conduit for Petraeus, who she mentions, can't speak publicly as head of the CIA, might also have been passed to her. And at what point do people involved in that investigation, as we found, have since gotten to Congress, have been motivated with that concern?
All right. Well, thanks very much to all three of you. So many questions, and these are the three reporters answering so many of them. We appreciate your time.